Good evening, friends. I cannot see ALS chat. Am I visible to all of you? Okay. Okay, so let us begin. So we were talking about quantitative revolution, and we have already seen that how quantitative revolution ultimately grew over a period of time or developed over a period of time. So that was the basic aspect of development of quantitative revolution. Here are some characteristics of quantitative revolutions which are written. You can see quantitative revolution was a revolution in literal as well as figurative sense. And how it was literal? Because new methodologies were widely developed and adopted. These referred to as quantitative methodologies, which included the statistical procedures, mathematical procedures, geometrical procedures, computer techniques, etc. So, number of new quantitative methodologies were adopted. It was figurative in the sense that quantitative revolution had led to development of theory in geography. This theory had spatial character and has been referred to as the locational theory. This aspect has been so significant that some geographers wanted to call quantitative revolution as theoretical revolution. Whatever be the nomenclature, quantitative revolution had led to import and adoption of several theories and models in the initial phase and the development of geographical models in the later phases. Some of the theories which were imported included the holy trinity of economic models. They were imported from economics. So these were von Thunen model, central place theory, Weber's industrial location theory. There were several sociological theories, particularly the models related with urban morphology of Chicago School and study of urban factorial ecology, including the rank size rule, which is directly mentioned in the syllabus. From physics, there was import of social physics school and macro geography. From mathematics and statistics, several procedures of analyzing geographical data along with geometric principles which later became the basis of locational theory. Okay? So that is basically what was essentially the case of quantitative revolution. So I hope this is clear to you all. इतना तो easy था. We have already talked about all this. What was quantitative revolution? Yes or no? So if we talk about the criticism of quantitative revolution now, What were the shortcomings of quantitative revolution? It is really unbelievable for me, yaar. Sometimes really it is unbelievable. And अगर ये normal classes होती and it was happening like this, it would be like a teacher for us, so much shame for a teacher, really. Right now I can see the attendance to be 41. Out of the total enrolled people in the guidance IAS, that is 200 plus people are enrolled. And similar type of attendance is also in the ALS group, and there also almost similar numbers are there. It is really amazing how many people can miss the live class. Okay. So criticism. Literally अगर ये normal class होता तो I would have thought कि maybe I am not doing something well. That is why so many students are not attending the classes. Okay. Every day I see that in our guidance, hardly out of the total enrolled, maximum I have seen it is 60. Yes, they may catch up later. पंचवर्षीय योजना में एक और पंचवर्षीय योजना जुड़ जाएगा. Okay. The period of late 60s and 70s. See, when you are talking about criticism, all these, if you talk about approaches of criticism, I'll tell you one very good way of criticizing. And with this, what will happen? You will not have to mug up and you will be able to remember it. क्या हुआ? Okay. So tell me, we have seen this chart before, and if I ask you, this was the period of 1950 to 70, and this was the period from 1970 to late 80s. Only chat option is live for me, no video available. Have logged in again then also. So many people are there. How it is possible? Must be some cache issue or something like that. वो clean करो, it would start. Okay. So 1950 to 1970 and 70 to late 80s. Okay. So tell me, we have seen that during this period, this was the main approach and there were challenging approaches. So tell me, we know here it was quantitative revolution. So what were the challenging approaches which were present during this period? कोई बता सकता है? We have already seen that, those challenging approaches. One very important challenging approach was, it was behavioral approach. Then another was humanistic approach. Another was essentially welfare approach, another was radical approach, and another was the environmentalist approach. ठीक है. So tell me, सीधी सी बात है, all these people are the challenging approaches. All these are the challenging approaches. So can I say that will they be critical of quantitative revolution? सबने criticize किया होगा? Yes or no? Would they have been critical of this QR? So सबकी तरफ से कुछ ना कुछ criticism आया होगा. No doubt about that. ठीक है. So let us see and let us work from this point of view with respect to criticism. And if you just remember this chart, you will not forget. It is as simple as that. You will remember all the criticism. So suppose I am going to write the criticism. I can definitely talk about that. In decade of 1960s was a turbulent decade. We have already seen it was a very turbulent decade, and there were so many problems in society which ranged from environmental to racial to economic so many we have already seen. What was happening? It was seen that QR or geography guided by okay, now it will come back. So it could not provide any practical solution to deal with the problems in hand. And as a result, what happened? We have already seen that quantitative revolution rose with a promise, and the promise was to make geography relevant. So there was what? There was a very strong criticism which emerged against quantitative revolution. So let us talk about all these criticisms. One important criticism was the behavioral criticism. Behavioral criticism. So tell me, think what behavioralists would have criticized quantitative revolution for. Already we have seen the difference. Behavioral geographers were critical for that. They felt behavioral geographers felt that the development of theory in geography, and whenever I am using the word geography, I am using actually human geography. So that development of theory in geography was painfully slow. painfully slow. The theories formed hardly resembled the real world. Thus, their utility was also questionable. Their utility was also questionable. Okay. So what they found, they thought that the reason for all these problems was the aspect of quantitative revolution which tried to dehumanize. So what was the reason? Reason was the neglect of the study of human behavior. Human behavior. So they felt that it was important, human behavior, as most theories of quantitative revolution were based upon simplifying axioms, assumptions. So, so many simplifying assumptions like economic rational human, isotropic surface, that means homogeneous surface. Nowhere in the world there is homogeneous surface present. Uniform demand, uniform supply, so many type of simplifying assumptions. And in these assumptions made the theories, theories from away from the real world, and that is why the results were not very useful. So most of these theories of the theories of QR were based upon simplifying axioms. Okay? So that is what they were critical of. Thus they felt that inductive method should be used to study human behavior and formulate realistic theories based upon that. Okay? Are we clear about this? So this was the first criticism. याद रहेगा behavioral. Then humanistic criticism की बात करते हैं. Humanistic criticism, and humanists were highly critical of the quantitative revolution. So they were critical of both. याद है एक चार्ट मैंने बना के समझाया था तुम लोगों को, if you remember. Yes, this was the chart. If you remember, behavioral approach accepted the objective but rejected only the method. So their main problem was with the method, not with the objective. But humanistic, can you see, they rejected both objective as well as the methodology. Okay. So if you talk about humanists, they were critical of quantitative revolution with respect to two aspects. First criticism they felt was that that QR had dehumanized geography. Dehumanized geography by grouping all humans as one. That was economic, rational humans. And such dehumanization was against the spirit of human geography, where human and humanness should form the center of studies. Center of studies. That was the time when so many jokes, so much criticism was leveled against the quantitative revolution. So many type of jokes. Kuch to I have explained you that, if you remember that deer wala joke, I have explained you. One more joke was there that two quantitative revolution followers, they went, they were going by a ship and something happened and they were stuck on an island. So because of some accident, they got stuck on an island. Now on this island, luckily they had food. The food they were carrying, they had their bags. So there was canned food, which is closed in can. But they didn't had can opener. And again, what to do? Because without the can opener, how can you it was difficult to open the can, and otherwise if you force, then food might be spoiled. So they didn't had the can opener, and they tried to open it, so much things they did, but they couldn't open. And in the end, after they got very much tired, suddenly one of them said to the other, and it was like, imagine if we had the can opener. And both imagined. Ultimately, they had the can opener in their imagination. They opened the cans, ate the food, and they satisfied their hunger and felt sleep. Okay, so all happened where? In imagination, and ultimately in imagination happened, so in reality also happened. They felt that they were no more hungry and they ultimately slept. That was the case of quantitative revolution. Everything was on paper, because they totally divorced it from the human beings. Human beings were totally like put out of geography. As we have seen before, this variety, these feelings, these value systems is what makes us human. Otherwise, we can be just like animals, or we can be called as machines. That is what is humanness. So humanistics were very much critical of this aspect. They were also critical of another very important, they were critical of the methodology. So ये बहुत important है, criticism of methodology. So here some assumptions you can understand ultimately, that for study of human beings, you should not use general techniques. Every individual is different. So you should not make theories and models. You should study each individual separately. Now, criticism of methodology. When we talk about criticism of methodology, they found or they criticized positivism as a reductionist methodology. As a reductionist methodology. And if you talk about this reductionist methodology, how it was a reductionist methodology, they felt that it reduced knowledge to establishing cause effect relationship. Knowledge to establishing cause effect relationship. ठीक है. So that is very important aspect of the quantitative revolution. If you remember, एक हमने anti-realism में, if you remember, we said, we had before talked about this, that if there are so many individuals which are there, what we find, each of them have their own way of looking at the phenomena, and this one person is what we call as the positivist. And there are several others. There are several other way of looking at the phenomena. So what it was doing, it was reducing knowledge to just establishing cause-effect relationship. Knowledge was much more, according to the humanists, than was talked about by the quantitative revolution guided by positivism. ठीक है. So what they believed that target of geographers should be to understand the phenomena. That means they should do what? They should do phenomenology. And understanding of the phenomena is more than just establishing cause-effect relationship. So can you understand this word I used, reductionism? Tell me, reductionism of knowledge? Can you get me what I am saying here? So they were reducing knowledge according to the humanist geographer. So this is the second criticism that you will have to remember. Third criticism पे आते हैं. And very clearly the third criticism came from the social relevance criticism. And particularly this social relevance criticism, welfare भी बोल सकते हैं, like I wrote before, because I will be using the example of welfare here. So I just use their welfare. So social relevance criticism basically क्या था? In social relevance criticism at that time we will see there was both welfare plus radical. ये दोनों एक ही थे, भाई भाई थे. बाद में इनमें बंटवारा हो गया. So initially we will see that in the first phase, late 60s phase, both were same. They had similar type of objective. to solve the problems of the society. But then radical adopted a more political approach. They became Marxist, and welfare thought that it would be better that we remain neutral. Okay. So what was the social relevance criticism? Social relevance criticism was that quantitative revolution was unable to provide any practical solutions to the problems faced by society. It was busy in formulating its hypothetical models and theories. They believe that what should be happening, that geography should become more contingent. That means problem solving approach. So here you can bring, if you want to give example, you can bring the case of D.M. Smith, the developer of welfare geography. So Smith, what he says, that he found that the systematic technique of QR, और सिस्टमैटिक मत देखो, नोमोथेटिक लिखो, नोमोथेटिक technique of QR was poor in problem solving. So what he wanted, he believed that the areal differentiation approach offered better prospects to this end. ठीक है. So he was very critical of quantitative revolution, as he felt that it didn't solve the main problems which the society was facing. So this was one, the social relevance criticism which was there. Then you can say अलग से भी लिख सकते हो मार्क्सिस्ट क्रिटिसिज्म. वहाँ पे रेडिकल लिखा था, हम उसको मार्क्सिस्ट क्रिटिसिज्म कर देते हैं. Marxist criticism. So Marxist criticism was basically what? Number of things they talked about. One very, very important aspect of quantitative revolution they didn't like. They felt that, or they criticized QR as an instrument of capitalism to justify their crimes. Instrument of capitalism to justify their crimes. So if I give an example of Harvey. So according to Harvey, what was the problem of QR? Problem was that a theorist or a geographer when applies a theory in the real world, he finds that it is partially applicable. Partially applicable. And the parts which did not apply could be explained with respect to peculiar history and geography of an area. And as a result, what happens? Geographer becomes content that he has done something worthwhile, something worthy he has done. And what Harvey feels, that this is the problem. Why? Because geography should not only explain the prevailing situations, but also what geography should do, but also provide alternatives to improve the situation. Harvey was of strong view that QR came into existence to justify the needs of कैपिटलिज्म. नीड्स ऑफ कैपिटलिज्म. ठीक है, मैं देखो इसको समझाता हूँ व्हाट हार्वे इज एसेंशियली टॉकिंग अबाउट हियर. सपोज देयर इज अ city and we find that in a city there is CBD, Central Business District. Surrounding this CBD there is zone 2. We will later see. In zone 2 some industries have encroached here because this is expanding. So this is something where some manufacturing is taking place. It is dirty area, and here thus there is a slums in zone 2 are located. Then as you go out of the city, then you will be finding zone 3. So this was your zone 2. So this is zone 3 and this is working men home. Then there is a middle class and there is a commuter zone where rich class is living. ठीक है. So we'll see that this is the Burgess concentric zone theory. Actually, this theory was developed in sociology and it was later adopted or imported in human geography. ठीक है. Now tell me, if I see, अगर मैं दिल्ली में देखूं, अगर मैं अब इस मॉडल को यूज करता हूं एंड आई एम अ जोग्राफर एंड आई ट्राई टू अप्लाई दिस मॉडल इनटू दिल्ली. सो दिल्ली में आई विल बी फाइंडिंग देयर इज एक्चुअली कनॉट प्लेस विच इज द CBD, बट आई फाइंड कि एक और CBD है which is Chandni Chowk. So there is an 2 CBD model. So there is some discrepancy I am finding, but again I can explain this discrepancy with peculiar history of Delhi. It is a historical city which also had medieval continuity. So the old CBD was actually built during medieval time, and later Britishers, when they came, they built CP. Again, after that I'll find that here there is a peculiar geography. There is a river Yamuna. I will find that here there is presence of an inner ring road. There is an outer ring road which is present. So can you see that there are actually concentric circles in which Delhi has developed. So there would be some differences with respect to the model, but I can more or less explain many of these differences, why they are different. Can you understand what I am trying to say here? Tell me. In fact, you will be finding near CP and near these places, Paharganj and all those slum places are located where lots of, if you talk about manufacturing etc. taking place. So now see what has happened. I am here a geographer and I have applied this, and now I am becoming content with what? That I have done something very worthwhile. But was it my actual task? Was it my only task? Wasn't it my task to ask why there is poor people? Why there is poor people who are concentrated like this, living in very, very bad conditions? Conditions are so much poor, so much bad for them. Wasn't it my task as a geographer? Wasn't it my task that I should aim for a model which reflects more equality in the city? When I am doing this, when I have formulated such type of theory, can I say in a way I am justifying कि ऐसा ही होता है? I am making some natural laws about formation of city and I am trying to justify that city develops in this manner. So in other words, am I not justifying inequality? Yes or no? Tell me. Don't you feel that here I am in a way justifying inequality? And this was the main problem according to Harvey. He was very, very critical that geographers should be doing more than this. He was absolutely correct. In fact, he was very clear that most of the time it is argued that geography is neutral. But what is reality? No science can be neutral. No sciences can be neutral. Sciences are always, or any subject always reflects the needs of that time of the society and needs particularly of the dominant section of the society. And it is the dominant section which frame these knowledges, these sciences. ठीक है. So tell me, so many things we can actually think of. I can explain you. Like for example, tell me, did we see that during the time of Ratzel, he came up with the theory of organic state. He wanted to make science of geography, and he talked about organic state. Was his theory of organic, don't you think that his theory of organic state was definitely motivated by some ambitions? Wasn't he trying to justify the colonial process? He was absolutely doing that. In fact, what happened, this period when quantitative revolution came into being, why there was need for quantitative revolution? Harvey says that quantitative revolution was needed because this was the period when technology drastically improved. For example, this was the period when automobiles ultimately became reality, private automobiles, they became reality. And several other technological developments occurred. And as a result of these developments, what happened? There was contraction of space and time. In other words, the mobility of the resources became higher. And if the mobility of the resources has become higher, can I say that there is more possibility that gap between rich and poor regions would increase if resources become more mobile? Suppose there was one area and there was another area, A and B. This B has resources and A had industries. Okay. Now earlier, what was the case? The mobility was very limited. So if A wanted to utilize the resources of B, he would have to do what? He would have to set industries here. But now when technology improved and resources can be shifted from here to here, can I say there was a possibility that industry can remain here and this would just become a resource periphery? And ultimately what will happen? Can I say the gap between this rich and this poor region would keep on increasing with time? And inequality would keep on increasing with time? But if you explain people that this is the rational way of doing things, this is the only rational way of doing things, this is natural law, then what will happen? Maybe they will believe you. And if you come up with such kind of impressive theories, models, to explain it, again most of the people will believe. So many students, I have been teaching here, and so many students ask me, sometimes in this perspective classes only, and when I explain Marxism, etc., and I explain in detail later on, I'll be explaining to you also radicalism, and so many of them ask me that, sir, but if you are talking so many things, good things about Marxism, but don't you think that with Marxism there would be loss of democracy? Okay. So again, you can understand that how this kind of idea comes, that radicalism is capitalism is the only way for development. Marxism will stop the development process. Okay. It would stop the development process. So from where this kind of ideas have come? Again, how these ideas have come? People have been taught in a particular way. They have been explained that this is the way, this is the natural way. We see, our government aata hai and they say that so much we need FDI, etc., etc. बिना FDI के मर जाएंगे, भूखे रह जाएंगे, नंगे रहेंगे, and all those kind of things, and will die ultimately without FDI, etc., etc. ठीक है. in reality, if you actually know, US, countries like US actually need more us than we need them. We have reached to a level of development where with Jugaad technology we will be able to do most of the things. But if our market is not available, their economy would go down so much drastically that you cannot believe. It is just some corrupt individuals, both in the business and the politics, who are just taking advantage of all these things. But we have been explained in this manner. बाद में I'll explain you what is the basic of why there was so much criticism of Marxism happened and what was related with Soviet Union. So we'll talk about all those things. But this is what actually happens, and this is what Harvey was saying. So quantitative revolution was framed with an aim, according to Harvey. And what was the aim? Aim was to justify that inequality is natural. ठीक है, inequality is essentially natural. You cannot do anything against this inequality. ठीक है, so that is basically what is this idea of the Marxist criticism. Then the environmentalist criticism. Environmentalist criticism. So if you talk about the environmentalist criticism, we can very clearly understand that quantitative revolution was based on the philosophy of economic determinism. याद है, we have talked about economic determinism. So whatever activities that we have, all of them can be explained on the basis of our economic needs. Rational economic humans. ठीक है, so everything can be explained from the profit and loss point of view. So it was essentially based upon economic determinism. So what happened as a result of this? As a result of such extreme viewpoint, there was rapacious exploitation of environment, and this rapacious exploitation has led to what? This has led to the present problem of environmental degradation. And this environmental degradation has reached to such extremes that even this is threatening today the existence of humans. ठीक है, so it has become even threatening to the humans, other species you leave. So they thought quantitative revolution was directly responsible for so many problems which were there, environmental problems which were there. Such type of philosophies were the main problem. ठीक है, so this was the environmental criticism or environmentalist criticism. Are we clear about how to criticize quantitative revolution? Tell me. And with this, very good thing will be that you will not forget the points, and you will also write more logically, more systematically. It would be very much appreciated by the examiner. So critical हो गया, appraisal करते हैं. Despite its rejection and overthrow, quantitative revolution has definitely enriched the geographical discipline, and many aspects of it still guide the development of discipline. Before the advent, what were the important things? Before the advent of quantitative revolution, geography was atheoretical. That means without theory. With the advent of quantitative revolution, for the first time, theory of geography developed. And when we are saying geography, remember again and again I am telling you, it means human geography. This was essentially symbolized in a book written by William Bunge, and this was theoretical geography. The theories which were developed despite their shortcomings became essential part of geographical discipline and are still used in academic geography. You can see we are studying those theories. Quantitative methodologies, so that was first important aspect. Then quantitative methodologies continue to remain important. Even the later approaches like ह्यूमनिज्म यहाँ पर नहीं होना चाहिए, इट इज नॉट ह्यूमनिज्म, यू टॉक अबाउट बिहेवियरलिज्म और बिहेवियरल, फिर से ये इज्म आ रहा है, यू चेंज इट टू बिहेवियरल अप्रोच. So later approaches like behavioral approach used these quantitative methods. ठीक है, they are even more relevant in the present age of supercomputers and information technology. And not only behavioral approach, if you want to write about other approaches, you can talk about other approach which used welfare approach. So behavioral and welfare approaches, they utilize the quantitative method. So that is the second important legacy of quantitative revolution. Another legacy of quantitative revolution was to emphasize the study of movements and processes. ठीक है, movement and processes. So this is third very important. We know very well that there is no doubt that presently what has happened, mobility has become greater in space, and the explanation should take into account these mobility factors. And with respect to quantitative revolution, this was the core of the study, to explain the movement patterns in space. ठीक है, so again that was one important legacy which still remains part and parcel of geography. Pre-quantitative revolution geography was mostly descriptive, but with advent of quantitative revolution, emphasis on causal phenomena was put and scienticism in human geography developed. Such scienticism was very important as it helped to save the status of geography as a discipline and to avoid the crisis of late 40s and early 50s. ठीक है, so this is the fourth important point we have to definitely remember. Without quantitative revolution, maybe there wouldn't have been geography as we are studying today. And finally, it should be understood that spatial science, which underlined quantitative revolution, never died. It has continued in the discipline through the works of behavioral and functionalist approaches. Behavioral and functionalist approaches. We've already seen behavior was just a newer version, a more moderate version of the quantitative revolution, a more you can say more realistic version they tried to develop of the quantitative revolution. ठीक है, so are we clear with respect to quantitative revolution? Tell me. Yes or no? If you are clear, then answer this question. with the advent of quantitative revolution, a new paradigm in geography, a new paradigm started in geography. Started in geography. Justify. 150 words. And you have got 3 minutes to frame your answer. Three minutes to frame your answer. Think what you will be writing here. This one. Okay. कैसे लिखेंगे? You have to just justify it. So if I was to write introduction, I'd just give a very simple introduction, and I can simply say that decade of, or you can say geography in the post war period saw emergence of quantitative revolution due to its dissatisfaction with the older paradigm, full stop. QR started और विथ क्यू आर लिखो, विथ क्यू आर started a new paradigm which was quite different from the older areal differentiation paradigm. Older भी लिख सकते हो, और you can say at that time it was contemporary paradigm, areal differentiation. So I can just write one introduction, then I have to prove this. You can use points to write, or you can use a chart to write. It is up to you how you will be talking about. So I can essentially say the criteria of change. Here I can just criteria of change of paradigm. I'll just alter my words to make it tailor made according to the question. And older areal differentiation paradigm and the new quantitative revolution paradigm. New quantitative revolution paradigm. So tell me, what would be the criteria on which basis I will be talking about? I would talk about can I say that here I will talk about the approach, how the approach changed. There was change in the approach. So what was the basic change in the approach? कोई बता सकता है? In the older areal differentiation paradigm, it was based upon ideographic approach. So it changed from ideographic to nomothetic, from ideographic to nomothetic approach. ठीक है? So that was ultimately more important factor. Then there were other things as well. For example, tell me, image of subject matter. Image of subject matter. So here the image of subject matter was what? In the older areal differentiation paradigm, geography was considered as science of regions. Science of regions. And here geography was treated as locational science. Locational science. ठीक है? So that is one image of subject matter का difference था. Then there was different in the methodology. There was difference in the methodology. So what was the methodology? How it was different? In the old, it was more based upon field surveys and mapping was the main methodology. Here it became what? It became more deductive methodology. So it was just deducing from simplifying axioms. So there was change in the methodology in geography. There were other changes also, and if you talk about the conception of space or geographical space. So what was the conception of geographical space? Here it was more, geographical space was landscape was being studied, and we moved from landscape to location, study of location. ठीक है, what is the basic difference? Landscape is a very static concept. इसको मैं बाद में ज़्यादा डिटेल में समझाऊंगा व्हेन आई कम टू द कंसेप्ट ऑफ प्लेस. तो वहाँ पर आई डिफरेंशिएट बिटवीन ऑल दीज थ्री. So static concept. When you are talking about location, the focus is on study of interrelations between और functional लिख सकते हो, functional interrelations between locations. ठीक है. So there was conception of space was very important factor. Then there was other aspects also which were different, which changed, like for example the place of humans. So in the earlier aerial differentiation geography, देखो, in both of them the human involvement was comparatively less, but in aerial differentiation human culture was also studied as a part of geography, although they didn't study the subjective aspect of the culture, but the objective aspect of the culture was essentially being studied. ठीक है. They didn't pay too much attention to the value system, etc., but they studied culture, and unique study of the culture was taking place. In case of the quantitative revolution geography, how it changed? There was dehumanization of human geography. All humans were treated as economic rational. All humans were treated as economic rational. ठीक है. If I want, मैं और भी चीज़ों पे जा सकता था, like for example I could have talked about the exemplars. So in the aerial differentiation, exemplar was Hartshorne was the main exemplar of this period, and ultimately his book The Nature of Geography. While here the main exemplar became Schaeffer and his paper Exceptionalism in Geography. एक्सेप्शनलिज्म इन ज्योग्राफी. ठीक है. सो टेल मी, जहां पर भी हमें क्वेश्चन में द क्वेश्चन इज टॉकिंग अबाउट अ चेंज इन पैराडाइम, कैन आई से कि हमारे पास ऑलरेडी एक फ्रेमवर्क है along which I will be writing my answers? Yes or no? Conclusion, you could have written anything, and conclusion you could have talked about how this change lasted only for 2 decades, and post 1970 there was another shortcomings of quantitative revolution brought a multi-paradigmatic geography guided by behavioral, humanistic and radical approaches. This can be simply our conclusion. Okay. Now here Satish was giving number of points, and he talked about introduction में existing paradigm before World War and the crisis of geography as a discipline, body development of quantitative revolution, need of QR, scienticism and casual phenomena developed, further gave way to behavioral and welfare as reaction of QR, conclusion, importance of QR in academics. So again I would say, Satish, that your answer was very much ready-made. तुम्हारे पास पहले से आंसर था, and you didn't actually see what was the demand of the question. ठीक है, what was the demand of the question you couldn't see, you couldn't understand, and demand was very clear. You had to justify one thing, how this change happened, how it was, you can justify that it was a new paradigm. So always try to answer the question which is there. ठीक है, rather than just fitting what you know. In this how to make conclusion applied, यार हर जगह एक ही चीज क्यों फिट करने की कोशिश करते हो? टेल मी. Kumkum is asking how to make the conclusion applied. ठीक है, it is something like that. क्या बोलूं, I don't like pizza, suppose, and you come to me and you ask me, okay, sir, you are hungry, let me order a pizza for you. I would say no. Okay, I will order this pizza, this version of pizza, that version of pizza, or so many types of pizza. ठीक है. So again, what you have to do, you have to fit things according to the need of the question. हर जगह एक ही फंडा नहीं लगता है. ठीक है. So हर जगह the demand of the question might be different. That conclusion does not always need that it has to be applied. Here we wrote about a conclusion which was more just because question was talking about that it was in a way incomplete, the statement. So ideally the statement should have been what? With the advent of quantitative revolution, new paradigm started in geography which lasted for 2 decades. This should have been a complete statement. ठीक है. So what I did in my conclusion, I just completed the statement. बस. ठीक है. Okay. So moving on. Now here ये योगेश पीछे पड़ गया है. Does colonization of Mars will bring back quantitative revolution? पहली बात तो colonization of Mars, अभी we have just now known recently that there is water on moon, पढ़ा होगा. So अभी वो बहुत औकात के बाहर की चीज़ है. You think maybe, may not be, it might bring quantitative revolution, whatever things if come. Quantitative revolution will not be same because what is gone is gone. Already there are some aspects of quantitative revolution existing. ठीक है. So we don't know what will happen. ज़्यादा imaginary मत हो. And here Darpan is asking, just out of curiosity, what that sound like blast or thunder. So it is Diwali time, and ultimately people are ultimately enjoying the festive season. Some of them are more like hell bent on showing that the government is wrong. And yesterday only Delhi government announced that burning of crackers will not be permitted. It was banned here because of the pollution. It was so much polluted because of the stubble burning which is there, which is becoming a big problem. And in winters, because it is a subtropical type of climate, so there is ultimately a subsidence of air taking place. So there is inversion of temperature layer, and ultimately because of that so much pollution occurs in Delhi in the winters. But कुछ लोगों को prove करना है कि the government is wrong, so they have to show that they are ultimately very intelligent people. And ऐसे ही कुछ intelligent लोगों का आज मैंने वीडियो one of you requested you to वो कल वाला जो मैंने बोला था वो वीडियो डाला था ग्रुप में. Did you saw that those intelligent people talking? So very similar people were there. Okay, so is conclusion required in justification question? Yes, it should be there. Conclusion and introduction are always part and parcel of if you talk about your answer. They should always be there. You should skip introduction and conclusion if you feel that you don't have time, or you feel that you have too much content in the main body, and it is so much important to write that maybe there will be no space for conclusion. So in that case you can skip. Otherwise always try to write introduction and conclusion. Okay, moving on to our next topic, that is locational analysis. Locational analysis. And again, as I told you before, locational analysis was what? It was one of the method of quantitative revolution. So I would simply say locational analysis was one of the methods of QR through which locational models, theories and laws were tried to be developed. Okay, so that is basically the locational analysis, and we'll see what essentially was the case of locational analysis. So you see, quantitative revolution was based upon locational analysis and locational theory. Locational analysis is an approach in human geography. Approach, मेरे हिसाब से, it is more of a method which focuses upon spatial arrangement of geographical phenomena and related flow patterns. It is based upon the principles of positivism, and its primary objective is to construct locational theory which should provide a scientific character to human geography. It aims to develop science of location. Okay, geography has to be developed as science of location. So locational analysis was developed in US in the works of various scholars including William Bunge, Stewart, Garrison, McCarthy. In UK, it was introduced in human geography by most important locational school geographer, and the name is Peter Haggett. Okay, it was Peter Haggett. So the most important person who is associated with this idea of locational analysis, it was Peter Haggett, although all others also worked on this part. Now let us talk about what was the basic concept of locational analysis. Locational analysis is based upon the fundamental assumption that geography is a discipline which studies distribution of phenomena in space. Thus, fundamental unit of study in geography is distance, which is used to determine the locations, including the relative locations of place and places. ठीक है, relative location of the place and places. So देखो, I'll just explain first this term location. So when we are talking about the term location in geography, location can be two type, absolute and relative location. ठीक है. So for example, if I talk about where is the office of guidance is located, so I can give you the grid numbers, that is the latitude and longitude where it is located. So that would become what? That would become the absolute location. When we are talking about relative location is always in relation to other phenomena. So here what we study, we study the relation of one location to others. ठीक है. So I can say guidance IS office is located where? In Karol Bagh metro station. Just below that, there is a very famous shop, Chroma. So in Chroma building it is located. So again, when I am saying it is near Karol Bagh metro station, very clearly I am talking about which type of location. I am giving you relative location of Guidance IS Institute. ठीक है. So that is basically what is the essence of location. So when you are talking about locational analysis, the major focus is on what? On this aspect, the relative aspect of the location. How places, cities, nodes, they are interlinked to each other. What is the functional relationship between them? ठीक है. Functional relationship between them. And various geographers have given their opinion that when you want to study functional relationship, suppose there is this one place A, and here there are two locations B and C. ठीक है. B and C are located. Now tell me, if I talk about the relationship of A with B and C, in which case you think the relationship would be more strong? And we are talking about here the functional relationship that would be reflected from the flow of commodities and people which is taking place. Which of the relationship would be more strong between AB or AC? Tell me. It should obviously be AB. And here if you look into what is the primary factor which is determining, what is the main factor which we can say objectively, because you know quantitative revolution was more about objectivity. Things which we cannot see, would not be taken as a part of study. ठीक है. So here the main factor would become distance. Yeah, Amit is saying B and C. दिमाग लगा यार थोड़ा. दो भिखारी हैं and there is a person who is rich. So they would like to have more interaction between themselves or they will have advantage of interaction with this rich person? Tell me. आपस में what they would functionally interact? Here we are talking about functional relationship, objective relationship, not about their values, their time pass. ठीक है. So very clearly what will happen? The relationship between A and B will be stronger than in the case of A and C. ठीक है. So we can just signify it something like this. While in case of A and C, this will be comparatively weaker. In case of B and C, it would be even weaker relationship. ठीक है. So here very important factor which is determinative factor, although B and C वाले को अगर हम include करेंगे तो exceptional हो जाएगा, तो इसको छोड़ देते हैं. So what is the main factor which is there? It is the factor of distance is becoming determining factor. In fact, we can say that as you move from this point A, what will happen? Here is the amount of interaction which is taking place. Here I can say is B, and here I can say is C, and this is essentially what? It is a distance. So there is what? As you move away from A, there is application of distance decay. ठीक है. Application of distance decay. So suppose if I have to study the relationship objectively, because here the focus is on what? Studying objectively, formulating models and theories. We are not concerned about the things which we cannot directly see and measure. We are more concerned about the things which can be directly seen and measured. So tell me, if I have to define a relationship between the places, can I say one basic fundamental unit of defining this relationship? Can it be distance? Yes or no? One fundamental unit of determining this relationship, can it be distance? Yes, it can be distance. ठीक है. So this is basic aspect of locational analysis. Now see the rationale of locational analysis की बात करते हैं. And Cox has given a very good justification of why there is need for locational analysis. So he is talking about why geography should be developed as science of locations. Science of locations. ठीक है. So he simply says, what was the case of traditional geography की बात करते हैं. Traditional geography. So tell me, in traditional geography, can we say that there was presence of traditional society? There was presence of traditional society. If you talk about this traditional society had traditional or more we can say primitive technology. And under such primitive technology, tell me, can I say society was mostly agrarian? Mostly agrarian, ठीक है, and mobility was limited. Mobility in space was limited. More specifically, what was the case here? There was lack of functional specialization. Lack of functional specialization. And if there is lack of functional specialization, villages behaved as independent self units. They behaved as independent self units. Now, if they behaved as independent self units, tell me, suppose this is one village, this is other village, and a person who is living here in this village, there is a person A, there is another person B. Now tell me, A interaction, or this towns or town name village, suppose these villages, will they be interacting more with each other, or with there would be more static type of relationship which would be there? Tell me. Or I simply say, someone living here, suppose a person is living here, his interaction will be more with environment or person located at B. Tell me. His interaction will be, in such scenarios, his interaction will be more with the environment or with the person located at B. Obviously, his interaction would be greater with the environment. So, in such traditional cases, people's interaction was greater with the environment. Now tell me, if this is so, can we say that under such scenario, it is logical that scope of geography was to study human environment relationship in particular places? Yes or no? Human environment relationship in particular places. Can we say that? Yes or no? So that was the justification of areal differentiation. And simply this is the reason why regional approach was more developed. Can you understand this point? Yes or no? On the other hand, what should be the case of modern geography? Let us see. So tell me, in modern times, can I say there is presence of an industrial society? Industrial society, and this society has essentially more modern and developed technology. Modern and developed technology. And here what has happened, the society base is now more, was now at that time was more related with manufacturing, plus if you talk about, there was basically what, there is development of functional specialization. Okay, because you know there is so much increasing competition. Competition has greatly increased, and as a result of this increasing competition, what we find? We find that people will get more profit. Can I say when they will functionally specialize? Yes or no? Will there be functional specialization? Tell me. In fact, यहाँ पर मैन्युफैक्चरिंग के अलावा there is development of all primary sector plus secondary sector, plus there was also now growth being seen of the tertiary sector were growing. So there was more functional specialization which was seen, and with functional specialization, tell me, can I say the dependence of the locations, nodes, places between themselves, will it increase? Earlier A and B both were behaving as self unit. उनको demands were less, they were able to produce whatever they required in their own society at the same place. But now A has specialized in certain commodity. ठीक है, it has suppose specialized in manufacturing. It is iron and steel center maybe. Now tell me, does it not requires other things for survival like food, other aspects, other forms of manufacturing? So will it not have to depend upon other places like B, C, D, whatever? So if there is increasing functional specialization, what will happen to the mobility in space? Mobility in space has greatly increased. Today, there is more stronger linkage between the places as they become more and more interdependent, which is outcome of functional specialization and increased mobility. Increased mobility. ठीक है. So tell me, can I say under such scenario it is logical that the scope of geography should change to study relations between places rather than human environment relations. ठीक है. And that is the reason why locational analysis and quantitative revolution were more suitable for geography in the present time. Can you get the reasoning of Cox? Yes or no? So this is basically the idea. Why there was need for quantitative revolution, why there was need for locational analysis. ठीक है. सो यहां पर मैंने इसमें दे दिया है वॉट एवर आई टॉक्ड अबाउट, इट इज रिटन देयर. सो दैट इज वन. बट वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, द डेवलपमेंट ऑफ लोकेशनल एनालिसिस, यहां से पैराग्राफ चेंज होना चाहिए था. सो इट इज नॉट चेंज, यू रिमेंबर दिस. द डेवलपमेंट ऑफ लोकेशनल एनालिसिस हैज ऑल्सो अकर्ड थ्रू द वर्क्स ऑफ पीटर हैगेट, very influential person in development. In his book Models in Geography, he has presented 6 components which involve the study of locational analysis. And what are the 6 components? Initially he presented 5 components, later he modified. He revised his book and added later on 6th component. So these components are interaction, network, nodes, hierarchy, surfaces and diffusion. ठीक है. So according to him, locational analysis is study of interaction between places, networks which had developed, nodes which are present, hierarchy between places which are there, surfaces, that is what is their functional area, and diffusion, that is change with time that is taking place. ठीक है. So what is interaction? It is interdependence among people because of specialization. Network, formal route of this interaction like road, railways, sea routes. Settlements, nodes क्या होता है? These are settlements. That is the place where the networks cross each other. I'll explain each of these. Hierarchy is the ranking order of these nodes. Surfaces, type of land use and complementary areas associated with the nodes. And diffusion, as I said, it is the change of locational pattern through time. ठीक है. So let us see what is all about this. So suppose here there is one node, village, which was located. ठीक है. And suppose there was this space which was present where villages were located at a particular distance from each other, fixed distance from each other, uniformly spaced away from each other. and at this point of time they are not interconnected to each other. ठीक है, they are not interconnected to each other at this point of time. Now let us see. So suppose there was this village which I am marking as red, here you see. So ultimately a person living here, and he was to be ultimately get married. ठीक है, so he was to get married. So ultimately he got married here at this central place. So उसकी शादी हो गई. At this point of time there was hardly any road connecting these places. ठीक है, there was no road connecting this place. So whatever, but उसका this person got married who was living at this, suppose इसको मैं number भी कर देता हूँ for your sake, 6. ठीक है. Now ultimately he went to his wife's home after marriage. You know, you ultimately go to your ससुराल. So वहाँ पर he went and he found कि यार यहाँ तो बहुत खूबसूरत लड़कियाँ हैं. So much beautiful girls are there in that village. So he went back to his own village and he told his friends and all those other people कि यार there beautiful girls are located. So if you want to get married, I saw one, she's very beautiful, you should get married to her, and whatever. So more and more people got married. ठीक है. So tell me, can I say with time will there be development of road between these two locations? Why? Initially there was no interaction, but as more and more people got married, can I say interaction between these two places increased? And if interaction, suppose before there was hardly people going at this point, ठीक है, hardly there were people going at this point. But now there are more people who got married in the same village, and there is more movement between this central point and this village one. So there would be more customers. If there is more customers, tell me, can there be development of road? Can there be, like, suppose we are talking about old time, so suppose we are saying that वहाँ पर initial methods like bullock carts etc., there would be more people would be willing to take people from one to the central point and from central point to one. Yes or no? Tell me. होगा? It would definitely be happening. Same thing happened with 2, same thing happened with 3, 4, 5 and 6. इन सबके साथ हुआ. So now tell me, can I say, has this central point become a place where there is more gathering of people? बताओ मुझे. Can we say that has it become a point where there is more gathering of people taking place? And if there is more gathering of people taking place, can I say that some people located here would realize this opportunity and maybe they would think of opening some shops markets? Yes or no? Can they think about opening of such shops and markets? Obviously, yes, it would happen. It would take place. ठीक है. So see here, 3 points हमने बात किए थे. Interaction, network and nodes. So it started with interactions becoming more and more. Then it developed into formal networks. So here in this case it was roads, and ultimately with this there was development of nodes. And can you see the hierarchy? Earlier there was no differentiation between these places, all were equal level hierarchy villages. But as one became more central, more important, it was realized by the people, the economic opportunity was realized by the people, more ventures started and it became upwards, it got upwards in the hierarchy. Can you understand this point? Hierarchy. ठीक है. Now you can also understand one thing, that which are the areas which are dependent upon this central point C. Can I say this area which I have marked under green color? Yes or no? So can you see that it, as hierarchy develops, there is also development of surface. Surface is the influence area. ठीक है? It is the area of influence till where its influence is extending. ठीक है? And with time what will happen, there would also be diffusion. With time there can be diffusion. ठीक है? So for example, some of the functions, suppose this, some of the functions which were developed here was some marketing functions. Suppose बात करते हैं, marketing function started here at this point, and as a result of this marketing function, it became more and more prominent. Can I say that some of pioneers, suppose in this village, they would see that many of the things which this C is doing, we can also do. You would realize that we can also do, and it also starts competing with time. Can I say the relationship now will be changing? Maybe it will not become fully competing to C, but it would become comparatively bigger in hierarchy than the others. ठीक है? In fact, it would think like, for example, suppose करो कि here there is C, and C, in C there is location of cotton textile. Suppose there is marketing is taking place, cotton textile का marketing हो रहा है, and they are also doing some like zari work, etc., and they are selling. Can I say that C can realize this opportunity कि ऐसा हो सकता है कि we become the supplier of cotton textile to C? Yes or no? Tell me. they would realize that they would become, or suppose others also realize, in cotton textile manufacturing and यहाँ पे हम लिख रहे हैं मैन्युफैक्चरिंग एंड मार्केटिंग हो रहा है सपोज. सो अदर products are also required, like for example some would think let us develop chemicals which is so much consumed there. So slowly what will happen, they would begin to specialize, looking into the opportunities which are rising. Okay, so tell me, can I say with this does the relationship change? Can I say, if this is the case, can I say that here there is a greater chance that this line would become more thicker? This interaction would become much more thicker. Compared to these three. Yes or no? So this is basically the concept of diffusion. So can you understand what is basically locational analysis? Tell me fast. So study of these relationships, study of these interactions, study of these networks, study of these nodes, hierarchy of these nodes, the surface areas till which they have control, the change which is taking place in them. That is what is the crux of locational analysis. Okay, and these can be objectively explained according to the theorists of locational analysis, and that is basically formulating the theory about them. Okay, so like for example, one example of locational analysis, एक theory लेते हैं, very easy theory. So it is easy to understand. There is, suppose here market, and here there is raw material R1 and R2. R1 is suppose coal and R2 is iron ore. Tell me, iron and steel industry should be established where? This is market where the finished product, that is iron and steel, would be sold. This is coal and this is iron ore place. And in both these cases, tell me, both are weight losing. This is also weight losing raw material. This is also weight losing raw material. Now tell me, if I establish the industry at M market, can I say my cost will increase? Yes or no? If suppose there is R which is weight losing and M, if I establish the industry at near M here, can I say it is wrong approach? Because I will have to carry waste also. अगर मार्केट के पास लेकर के जाएंगे इंडस्ट्री को, these are weight losing. So out of the total raw material, only percentage of it is actually used in the finished product. So if I am establishing the industry at M market, then I will also have to carry the weight. ठीक है? So cost of transportation क्या हो जाएगा? Will it increase? It would become high. However, if I establish the industry here near R, tell me, if I am establishing the industry at R, can I say this is the more right approach? Because if I am establishing, what will happen with the cost of transportation? Will it reduce? It would definitely reduce. Because now I will have to only carry the finished product whose weight would be less. ठीक है, इतनी बात समझ में आ गई. Tell me fast. So here there can be many locations, like for example, one location can be ideal location of setting up the industry can be here. In between, because ये दोनों weight losing है, तो industry can be set up here. ठीक है. So this is the ideal one case where industry would be set up. Can I say there can be other case also? Because we will see that how ideal case doesn't exist, and what happened initially, we will find later on that influence of coal in location was more important than iron ore, and later iron ore importance became more. Okay. So suppose initially the industry was established here. So what was being done? R2 was being carried from here to here like this, but ultimately it was realized initially, in fact, R2 जो था वो यहीं पर ही था, कोल के पास ही था, but later what happened, technological changes etc. occurred, and as a result of which new iron ore resources were discovered, and iron ore resources became more important factor, more costly factor. So अब industry already यहाँ पर था, ठीक है. It was, there were two options, either you carry this R2 to R1 fully, that was one thing. Second option is you also establish one industry here. So एक industry यहाँ पर भी establish हो गई. See why this industry would be established. I1 already था, यहाँ पर एक I2 भी बन गया. Suppose if I am just going, suppose इस situation में, suppose if I say like this. Now tell me, if only industry is located here in this case, can I say एक घाटा हो रहा है हमें? What is that disadvantage which is taking place? When these wagons or the rails are coming and carrying this iron to the industry, there is no problem. But when they are returning back, aren't they returning empty? Tell me yes or no. Aren't they returning empty handed? Which is loss of opportunity. Can I say when industry is set up at both the points, it is better utilization, more efficient utilization of resources, because now in here the iron ore which was required was supplied, and here coal which was required was supplied. दोनों जगह पर development is taking place. ठीक है. So this is basically what is locational analysis. Here we are trying to justify what? Justify the most efficient location, the relationship between the places. Why that place is located there? What is the relationship? If it was weight gaining raw material or pure raw material which fully enters in the finished product, then it would have been better that the industry would have been more located near the market. ठीक है. So this is basically what is essentially locational analysis. Why things are located the way they are. And all these theories and models which we will be studying, majority of them are examples of this locational analysis theories. ठीक है. So this is what we mean by locational analysis. So Haggett, through his explanation, revealed that the concept of geography as science of distribution, which emphasizes regularities in various space elements. Similar ideas have been presented by, ये moral नहीं है, ये moral है. Morrill. Morrill, in his book Spatial Organization of Society. Here he emphasizes the role of geography as science of location in understanding the society. According to him, core elements of human geography are space, space relations, and changes in space. He underlined 5 qualities relevant to understand human behavior in space. And these 5 qualities are distance, agglomeration, relative location, accessibility, and size. All these qualities together can be used to build theories of spatial location. In fact, all these qualities can be quantified and expressed in one quality, that is distance. Okay? So that is what is essentially what we mean by locational analysis. Okay? And under locational analysis, what happened? There was development of locational analysis led to development, or more importantly, actually it was more import of several types of theories and models in geography. Several type of theories and models in geography. In general, there were, or broadly speaking, there were 4 types of locational theories imported or developed. And if we talk about these 4 type of locational theories, first was theories explaining the land use pattern of the entire landscape, full areas, like full country, and they are trying to explain the land use pattern of that entire country or part of that country, province or something. Okay? So if you talk about such theories, some of these examples, one of the first earliest expression of this was von Thunen model of agricultural location. Okay? So that was one type of theory which was developed. Then other in this category, our example देना है तो it is central place theory. Central place theory. So these were talking about what? How in a whole area there was development of land use pattern which occurred. Then second type was theories explaining the location of particular functions. or land use with respect to one type of activity. Like for example, if you talk about such theories, one very good example is जो अभी हम कर रहे थे, Weber's industrial location theory. ठीक है, Weber's industrial location theory. Von Thunen model of agricultural location है, it is about a specific, actually when it was originally developed, it was developed for explaining agricultural land use, but as it was later used in geography, we will find that it had huge applications with respect to explaining whole landscape land use. ठीक है, so we will see later on. So theory is explaining the location of particular functions and land use. So Weber's industrial location theory was one of the aspects which was part and parcel of this. Then there were others, और इसमें एक याद रखो जो सिलेबस का है बस. Then third, some general and abstract theories, and best example of this general and abstract theories was the theory of spatial diffusion. So if you remember, diffusion of information theory. Information theory. ठीक है. And fourth, if you talk about, was essentially the fourth category was which later developed, and it was behavioral theories. Behavioral theories. ठीक है. Behavioral theories, and behavioral theories भी, they are each of these type of behavioral theories. ये जितनी भी हमने categories यहाँ पर बनाई हैं, behavioral theories were all. So they were about landscape की theories थी. They were about particular land use, like industrial location में भी देखेंगे behavioral theories. ठीक है. So they were about all, but in general all the locational theories which were developed during quantitative revolution can be categorized into these four basic categories. ठीक है. So that is what was your locational analysis and locational theory. Okay. So if we talk about the criticism of locational analysis, locational analysis tried to convert geography into a geometrical science which neglects the role of human elements in determining the patterns of space. According to humanism, the factors like values and culture play more important role in determining the spatial relations, and thus these geographical patterns are not as simplistic as was assumed by locational analysis. ठीक है, as was assumed by locational analysis. So if I point it from this point of view, what they were just trying to do, they reduced geography to geometry. In turn, what they did, they dehumanized geography. They dehumanized geography. And to simply talk about location of places, location of functions does not always involve economic consideration. Economic considerations. ठीक है. For example, if I give you some examples, it is many times found that countries try to develop their border areas. They are trying to develop their border areas. Now tell me, they are trying to develop their border areas. Is there much of logic behind developing the border areas, which are far-flung areas, remote areas, where you have to carry the resources, which is not economically so much beneficial? But still, what is happening? Countries, so many countries are trying to develop industries and other things in the border areas. Why? Can I say here there is not economic considerations but geopolitical considerations? Geopolitical considerations are there. ठीक है. Similarly, और भी एग्जाम्पल्स हैं. लाइक मेनी टाइम्स विल सी, इंडिया में देखोगे तो many industries have been set up. Industries, and when we are saying industries, we are talking about manufacturing industries, have been set up where? In some areas like Indo-Gangetic plains. Very good example is several locomotive industries. Locomotive industries were set up. Now tell me, what was the basic reason why locomotive industries were set up? Bareilly, etc. Several places are there. क्या reason था? Can I say it was more guided by or motivated? Such space relationship was more motivated by political reasons. It was more motivated by political reasons. Labor waiver नहीं factor होता है. When it comes to manufacturing, it is more, you can say that, machine oriented. So one of the important aspects was because most of the times the railway minister used to be from Uttar Pradesh or Bihar, and to woo their voters, ultimately they would set up industries that they would talk about that will provide employment, etc., etc. So again, many times it was illogical decisions were taken from just economic point of view. When from just economic efficiency point of view, you already see that most of these industries have failed. Most of these industries have failed. They are not doing too much of good work. Why? Because they are far away from resource areas. You take the case of टाटा का ही केस ले लो, टेल्को का केस ले लो फॉर एग्जाम्पल. You must be aware, like Telco is located, its branches are located several places. Like Telco is also there in my city, Lucknow. But if you go to Telco, it is almost like non-functional. And I don't think that they are doing too much work there and there is too much profit coming from there. It is just being run just because of the social philosophy that Tatas have. Otherwise, they would have virtually closed that much before that time. So it is not very profitable. And why? There were other motives which were taken into consideration while they were being established. So it was not perfectly economic rational decision. Okay? So very clearly we find that many times the decisions can be more dependent upon behavior of people. Like other example you take Oxford, if you talk about Oxford, और एक दूसरा एग्जाम्पल लेता हूँ, ऑक्सफोर्ड का एग्जाम्पल छोड़ो. Today we find that there is phenomena of globalization, and can you see so many MNCs are coming and ultimately they are establishing industries in developing countries. We can see already. Now here very important factor is the behavior, and behavior means what? Risk taking behavior. Tell me, if it is a more local industry or corporation, will it have the capacity to take that risk? With the emergence of big firms, can we say that they have greater capacity to take the risk? So their behavior is highly risky. They are taking so many risks, and that has this is one of the factors which has led to the shifting of industries from the developed to developing countries. So here behavior of the firms become very crucial factor in understanding the location of industries. Okay? And many times you can understand behavior cannot be rationalized. Like Oxford का example अब लो. In Oxford you will be finding there is automobile industry. And how it was established? There was a person whose father used to work in a garage in Oxford, and ultimately he became rich engineer and established one automobile industry there. And as the industry established, other parts manufacturing industry established there. As parts manufacturing established, other automobile industries also shifted to Oxford, and ultimately Oxford became a very important automobile center of UK. Originally, the location of Oxford cannot be justified by economic rationality criteria. Okay? So this is the basic idea of this criticism, that it just tries to dehumanize geography. You cannot separate human emotions, values from the decisions taken by him. They would always be guided by their value system. Okay? So that is another. In most of the locational analysis models, the factor of diffusion has been underemphasized. This is a major drawback, as there are significant changes in distributional pattern with time. The essence of locational theory says that there are some natural laws which determine the spatial pattern and are to be discovered by geographers. Thus, it absolves humans from any role in the determination of these patterns. Such a deterministic concept has come under severe criticism from humanism as well as Marxist geographers. Marxist geographers in particular have criticized the locational analysis school for collaborating with capitalists against humanity. I have already explained this when I was explaining that city model. So they try to prove like it is natural outcome. You cannot do anything for that. Okay, it is based on some natural law. Okay, so that is basically one of the big problems associated with locational analysis. Now tell me, locational analysis is actually a manifestation of quantitative revolution. So can we say that same criticism which we used in quantitative revolution can also be used here? Just a little bit more focusing on theoretical part. Okay? So you can use the same criticism, just give examples of theory. Okay? So that is the basic, like I can say environmental criticism, same welfare criticism, and welfare ka criticism you can very clearly understand. it is talking about the development of industry at these places. Thus, it is naturally telling me that with time these places would become big centers. They would become big centers and they would become places where people will be moving and inequality would be rising. Yes or no? Tell me. So, they are in a way doing what? They are justifying inequality. The focus should not only should have been there. The focus should have been also on developing industries, identifying industries which should have been developed at the lower order settlements. Okay? So, many times they have just done what? They have justified inequality. And every area has its own ultimately what? Need. If I apply, it has led to what? A type of regional development models where a top-down approach has been adopted. And we have seen, if you remember that example of Uttarakhand, where resort type of tourism ultimately led to what? Led to so much catastrophes rising. So, the development model should emerge from the need of the place rather than superimposing some kind of model into that. Like take the example of India. You know, we resisted so much full adoption of capitalism till Nehru was living, and after that some leaders who were influenced by him, they were living, they resisted to their most ultimately development of or adoption of capitalistic model, because they knew that better model for India was a socialistic model, more based upon the concept of sharing of the resources rather than just based upon the concept of competition, because the population resource ratio in case of India was different than it was the case in the Western world. But you know, ultimately there was economic crisis and we were forced to adopt this model, this capitalistic model. And you see what has happened after this. Can we say that it is but obvious that inequality has further widened? Yes or no? There is very, very clear pattern which is visible to us that inequality has further widened. So, in India, what should have happened? There should have been more different type of model. You see the case of agriculture, how government is pushing for the farm, that reforms which they are talking about as reforms. And we later see that how a kind of more cooperative based agriculture would have actually revived the rural areas and would have solved so many problems which we are facing today. But nobody is talking about land reforms. Nobody is talking about corporatization of agriculture in India. We already have seen, we can see that how much cooperatives have been successful and have been able to solve many problems. We are just more content in highlighting the failures of cooperatives. Some places, north may, if you go in the east, cooperatives have failed, but there were reasons why they have failed. Why they have been so much successful in west and south. Okay, Amul is a very good example of that. So, agricultural reform should have emanated from the needs of the place. You see the case of China. Okay, there is an argument that in China there was the property laws were not absolute like the case of India. But we could have made several type of arrangements. There are several ways of motivating the farmers to go for a kind of cooperative farming. We are not saying that exactly you adopt the same kind of cooperative farming. Okay. Again, because there is a more top down approach, and there are fools who keep on coming and they talk about nahi, we are doing, ultimately we are developing the country, we are doing this, we are doing that. And you see, like sometimes we praise so many people, like we praised so much, we praised Manmohan Singh, etc. But what they did actually, rather than inventing our own models of development, वो ऑक्सफोर्ड में पढ़ के आए और वो आकर के उन्होंने अपना वो वहाँ पर वो उगल दिया and became very very famous, just because it was bound to happen, yaar. If you're selling your things, there would be money for some time, but what would be the outcome of that? You'll see. We are seeing the outcome. Everything has been like sold and we are like puppets right now. What we want to do, we cannot do. See, all these people, whether it is Rajan or all these are the people who have been trained in a particular form of economics. It is very unfortunate. It is unfortunate thing which came with Renaissance period. So, Renaissance and that rationality and that materialism which rose from there, and it has ultimately, it is one of the saddest things that the world has faced. Otherwise, see, many things which we are using today, I am like several times when I have time, I really see myself that like I have become like a puppet of the systems which have been created. Many things which I use, I don't even care for them, just I have to have them because there is a social pressure. So again, why it has happened? Because that models have been superimposed on us. Okay, so it is like this, and this was one of the bad outcomes of such type of locational analysis which ultimately occurred. Okay, so we'll stop for today. Yes, this is very very big problem that we have. Pranjal Bhaiya, answer classes, what about the classes when it will resume? Actually में हुआ क्या है कि I have a limited staff who works with me, a very quality staff but limited, and the thing is there is huge amount of pressure of copies right now which are to be checked. So this is the reason अभी वो थोड़ा सा stop हो गया है, but we'll start it again जैसे ही थोड़ा सा pressure release होता है. I'm even searching more people to ultimately for the evaluation process. ठीक है, so we'll stop for today. ओशनोग्राफी का डिस्कशन प्रांजल से बोल दूंगा यार, वो ले लेगा, उसमें बहुत सीधे सीधे क्वेश्चंस हैं. I think this you are asking, Asim, Marxist criticism. Tomorrow lecture नहीं है. Tomorrow I am not taking lecture. Tomorrow I have some other engagements. ठीक है, let us resume it from Monday only. It would be better for me. Sunday को भी मेरी classes हैं. Yes, the class will be from Monday. Revise in between this time, and because now it is going to little bit become more or complicated as we move it toward behavioralism, humanism. ठीक है, thank you Surajit. So he is saying that it was wonderful class. It was actually, देखो बात ये होती है कि if you actually look into locational analysis, if you want to read suppose on locational analysis, I can say that you will not find a single source who would explain you locational analysis, that how it should be explained. ठीक है. And many of the criticisms just they are like, they're just copy pasting. They don't give you the reasoning, they don't give you the sequence, the systematization which should be there. ठीक है. एंड अगर हम बस ये जैसे हमने यहाँ पर देखा, फॉर एग्जाम्पल वी सेड, वी टॉक्ड अबाउट द क्रिटिसिज्म, एंड वी विल सी, हम जब बिहेवियरिज्म का क्रिटिसिज्म करेंगे तो अगेन विल यूज दिस मोड. व्हेन विल क्रिटिसाइज ह्यूमनिज्म, अगेन विल यूज दिस डेवलपमेंट मोड. So with this what will happen? You will not have to mug up one. You will remember all the points and very logically, very systematically you will write all the points. ठीक है? So we'll stop for today. Good night.